Good morning. I am Saba Abershal, Chief External Affairs Officer for the Houston Airports. We would like to sincerely thank everyone that is joining us here today as we all learn a little bit more about human trafficking. It's through these pivotal relationships and partnerships that we are going to stop this disturbing and violent crime from happening in our own backyard. Human trafficking is modern-day slavery. It's not something that happens in faraway places. As our panel of experts will share with you today in a few minutes, human trafficking exists here. Robin Corey, who's been desperately searching for her beautiful daughter, Kristen Galvin, since January of 2022, can testify to that. Family and federal agents fear that Kristen is a victim of human sex trafficking. Our hearts and prayers are with Robin, who is here today. Every single day, women, men, children, both boys and girls, are targeted and groomed by traffickers who want to profit off the forced work done by victims who are often trafficked, unfortunately, through airports. In line with the City of Houston's zero tolerance policy, Houston Airports is committed to fighting human trafficking. We stand with the victims, and we assist in the detection and reporting of all suspected human trafficking activities. Our unwavering commitment to end human trafficking extends beyond airport terminals and into our cities, our communities, and our schools. We are in this fight together. I'd like to thank the Director of Houston Airport System and members of our senior staff that are present here, along with our colleagues with Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership and the committee that helped us put this group together. Thank you. I'm also very grateful for our sponsors, NOV, Houston First, Schlumberger, Marathon Petroleum, and Port of Houston. Thank you for your investment in our community. There is strength in numbers and power in knowledge. In addition to our speakers, whom I will be introducing in a few seconds, I'd like to recognize those with us on stage. Texas City Mayor Derek Johnson, City of Friendswood Mayor Mike Foreman, Office of Senator John Cornyn, Jay Guerrero, and Office of Senator Ted Cruz, Jason Fuller, Harris County District Attorney Office Special Crimes Bureau Chief Ruben Perez, City of Houston Chief Development Officer Andy Aiken, Houston Airport's Director Mario Diaz, Seabrook Police Chief Sean Wright, Bay Area Houston Economic Partnership President Bob Mitchell and Brian Friedman, NOV Senior Vice President David Reed, Mayor's Office of Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence Director Minal Patel Davis, Unbound Now Houston CEO Kerry Taylor, Houston Police Department Assistant Chief Ernest Garcia, and Houston Fire Department Assistant Chief Justin Wells. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate your support. City of Houston's anti-human trafficking efforts are serving as a model for so many other communities, and leading that effort is our own Mayor, Sylvester Turner.
Thank you, Saba. Let me just start off by saying good morning, and let me thank all of you for being here. And I certainly want to acknowledge all of these dignitaries who are behind me and the mayors who are here from our region. You know, I am pleased with you all today as we commemorate the Houston Airport System once again, leveraging their position and influence to end human trafficking. The Houston Airport System joins 10 city departments that work to address human trafficking through tailored strategies as part of our overall approach to institutionalize the city's anti-trafficking response across the city departments. For example, the Houston Health Department screens victims of human trafficking. The City of Houston Procurement Office enforces an executive order for zero tolerance when it comes to purchases and labor contracts. We have trained our Department of Neighborhood Inspectors for awareness and ARA enforces the Anti-Human Trafficking Hotel Ordinance. This and other parts of the City of Houston's model have been replicated across the country and in and around the world. We immersed 18 United States cities in our model, including New York City, Chicago, and LA, whose representatives travel to Houston to learn best practices. There are over 55 million people who pass through our airport system annually. That makes our airports a critical partner in raising awareness through the many communication touch points available. And I certainly want to acknowledge Mario Diaz and all of the Houston Airport executives and staff for just being very much intentional and engaged in this effort. As part of the city's bid to host the 2026 FIFA World Cup, the Mayor's Office of Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence, under the leadership of Meena Patel Davis, chaired the Human Rights Subcommittee and submitted a detailed plan that advances over 70 human rights opportunities. In 2016, in partnership with the Mayor's Office of Human Trafficking and Domestic Violence, the Houston Airport System launched an anti-human trafficking campaign designed to raise awareness and change public perception. They continued this work in 2019 with the United States Department of Homeland Security and Transportation of Transportation, and were the first airport system in the country to launch the Blue Lightning Initiative, a public outreach campaign. Innocent people are being abused and exploited every day, and we all have a responsibility to do everything we can to ensure they do not suffer alone and have a platform to advocate alongside all of us. I want to thank the community organizations, all of those who are participating in this effort, the businesses, the corporations, and individual citizens themselves, and most importantly, the survivors that are represented here today. We celebrate them and the Houston Airport System for doing their part in ending human trafficking. And what we do today and past today can certainly prevent one child, one woman from being trafficked in our city, around the country, and in fact around the world. But we have to be very intentional and focused in our efforts. So thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you, Mayor. As you highlighted in your remarks just a few days ago in the State of the City remarks, you said, don't be on the sideline, get in the game. Thank you. In this case, a call for all of you, join the fight. Don't stand in the sideline and watch. It's my distinct honor now to call on our esteemed members of the Houston Congressional Delegation, Congressman Randy Weber and Congressman Brian Babin. These members of Congress have been active supporters of legislation to combat human trafficking and help victims. We very much appreciate you being with us here today.
Thank you so very much, and it's a great honor to be here. I appreciate it, Saba. Thank you again to Houston Airport Systems and to BAHEP for having me participate in this event this morning. I want to thank each and every leader here today, standing behind me, and those of you out in the audience for helping to fight human trafficking as a global scourge, because that's exactly what it is. I also want to commend the local churches, law enforcement, and community organizations that have prioritized combating this heinous crime. Unbound Now, Bridge Over Troubled Waters, Red M, there's numerous organizations out there that are doing a really fine job. The issue of human trafficking is not a Republican issue, and it's not a Democrat issue. It's an American issue. It's a human issue, if you will. Many of our most vulnerable in every state and in every city in our great country have been coerced and exploited for sex trade and forced labor. Human trafficking is an evolving crime, changes, it adapts and mutates to the circumstances, the policies, the technology, and unenforced laws. And it is the epitome of evil. As someone with 17 grandchildren and 5 children, I can tell you it scares me to death every time I think about it. And I'd be very remiss if I did not mention how that the chaos that is going on at our southern border and the policies of our current administration have essentially allowed human trafficking to thrive along that southern border and along migration routes and flourish in the hands of those making a multi-billion-dollar profit off of this terrible industry. And I don't say that flippantly either. Sex trafficking is literally a core element of gangs like MS-13s. That is their business model, as a matter of fact. And when we allow transnational criminal organizations like the Mexican drug cartels and others to control the flow of migration into this country and dictate the movement of millions of people, we are enabling some of the world's most evil actors to hurt and abuse our most defenseless people. Every migrant wanting to step foot onto the U.S. soil into our country from Mexico pays a dangerous drug cartel a fee for that privilege. And trust me, the cartels always get their money, or someone pays with their life. If a migrant can't pay at the door, they will certainly be required to square up that debt once they get here. And this is how we're facilitating forced labor and sex trafficking right now, and it needs to end immediately. The best way we can help is to sound a clarion call. We've got to keep clanging this bell and encouraging people to come together, just like we are here today, this morning, to crush and destroy any semblance of this modern-day slavery. We need to work hand in hand to enable our state, our local and federal officials to investigate and prosecute to the very fullest extent anyone involved in this barbaric practice. And as a co-chairman of the House Border Security Caucus, I've been and taken many of my colleagues to the border on many instances, every single state on the southern border. And we have visited many of these detention centers, HHS, Border Patrol, and CBP. I've asked officers in charge of these centers, what do you do with these UACs, unaccompanied children? Well, we send them on to their families, quote unquote, around the country. Well, quite frankly, I asked this two questions. I said, do you do criminal background checks on these families? No, we don't. Do you do DNA testing on these children and these families to make sure we really have a family here? No, we do not. And I was given the answer, they do not have the resources to carry those out. So basically what we're doing is trusting what someone has given a phone number or someone has given a name, and we just turn hundreds of thousands of unaccompanied children over to so-called families. Folks, this is a policy that absolutely has got to stop. And so I want to say this, though. I'm very proud of what the state of Texas and what our local government is doing to combat human trafficking, and I know many of you here today have been instrumental in ensuring that we lead the way in standing for human rights and for the protection of every man, woman, and especially every child. So I want to say thank you, and I applaud your tremendous life-saving work. And with that, I will turn the mic back over. But I want to quickly encourage those of you who are deep into this fight, involved. This is not easy work. This is not for the faint of heart. And you are up against the worst of the worst in this issue. And so we owe a debt of gratitude to you all for your sacrifice and care. So please let my office know if there's any way that we can help at all, and we would love to do so. So God bless you, and thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sab. I appreciate y'all being here. If you have a pen and a paper, or if you have an iPhone, I want to give you a number. 888-3737. 888. Folks, that's the Polaris Project. And I don't mean the four-wheel kind, so you guys that are getting excited, the four-wheeler kind. This is forever kind. This is the Polaris Project where you report human trafficking. I'll repeat it again at the end of my remarks. I served 4 years in the Texas House of Representatives, and our landmark legislation was to fight against human trafficking. Now, I think all of us would admit that in Texas, we think things are bigger and better in Texas. But one of the things that is bigger in Texas is the fact that back then, we had 20% of the nation's human trafficking. Not a good statistic. This is why I'm so excited that the Polaris Project's putting their signs in aircraft. How many of y'all seen that in some of the airplanes? 888-3737, 888. We're fighting against it. House Bill 4009, by the way, which my good friend Sylvester Turner, when we were in the State House together, voted for. We passed landmark legislation that put the NGOs and the law enforcement agencies together that said recognize human trafficking when you see it. We needed more beds. We needed more houses. Kudos to Carrie Taylor, who lives in my great district, on what she's doing with Unbound now. We love that about her. She's working hard. This is a fight that everybody should be in. One of the things I learned back in the Texas legislature in drafting that bill that Governor Perry signed into law was that when you see young women walking on the street, a lot of our law enforcement agencies, they need to take a second look and look as close as they can, because it might not be some prostitute who's doing this out of her own volition, but she may indeed be a victim of human trafficking. She may have been pushed into this unwittingly, unknowingly, captured by drugs or physical abuse, violence, all of those things. Look close. We got NGOs working together. We got churches working together. We got law enforcement agencies working together. We put up a website based on House Bill 4009 so that everybody could go and get informed. And I got to tell you this, one of my favorite aspects I learned during that time was that the city of Waco, God love them, their police department, anytime a John was arrested for soliciting sex, they put his photo up on billboards in the city. Now that'll ruin your family life if you're a businessman doing that kind of garbage. So we ought to all be fighting against human trafficking. What we're doing here today is extremely, extremely important. Thank you for being involved. Thank you for being here. 888-3737, 888. Thank you and God bless y'all.
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate everything that you're doing towards fighting this. Next is Corinda Washington with Homeland Security, and she will be explaining to us about the Blue Lightning initiative that we're all part of now. Corinda.
Thank you, Saba. Well, good morning, everyone. It's great to be here with you today. My name is Corinda Washington. I have the privilege of serving as Executive Director for Social Impacts and Campaigns at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security headquarters in Washington, D.C. Those campaigns are, and I hope you've heard of at least one of them, If You See Something, Say Something, and the Blue Campaign, which is what brings me here today. I want to begin by thanking the Houston Airport System and the Bay Area Economic Partnership for hosting today's important event. I am proud to represent the Department of Homeland Security and extend my deep gratitude to the faith leaders, community members, civil servants, law enforcement, and business professionals who took time out of their day to hear about important work being done in our unified effort to combat human trafficking. And that also includes you. So thank you for being here today. While support for the movement is strong, there are still millions of men, women, children who are trafficked in countries around the world, including right here in the United States. It is estimated that human trafficking generates billions of dollars of profit per year, making it one of the most profitable forms of transnational crime. For DHS, the victim-centered approach is critical, placing equal value on the investigation of traffickers as we do on the stabilization to support victims. Human trafficking is a crime of exploitation and may not necessarily involve transporting the victim. When transportation is involved, traffickers often use public modes of transportation, such as commercial and private air travel, as a means of moving their victims. In most cases, victims do not self-identify, and the coercive tactics used by traffickers makes victim identification even more difficult. For these reasons and many others, DHS created the Blue Campaign and Blue Lightning Initiative, or BLI. The Blue Campaign is the department's national public awareness campaign to combat human trafficking and is a critical member of the DHS Center for Countering Human Trafficking, or CCHT. BLI was created in 2012 as a joint DHS and U.S. Department of Transportation initiative, as mentioned earlier, and is an element of the Blue Campaign. BLI provides crucial training to aviation personnel on recognizing and reporting indicators of human trafficking. The Houston Airport System joined BLI as our first airport partner back in 2019, and since then has been a strong advocate and partner to DHS. Since Houston joined the initiative, paving the way, 45 other airports, small and large, have joined and committed to training their employees. Thank you, Houston. That's right, give it up. It is not just the aviation industry that can make a difference. Blue Campaign calls upon all members of the community, all of you, all of us, to join in the fight against human trafficking. Our campaign has created tailored content for specific audiences such as law enforcement, adults that work with youth, faith and community-based organizations, community retail, convenience store retail workers, hospitality, and more. I urge you to check out our website for resources, and you can do that by visiting dhs.gov/bluecampaign. I am honored to stand beside leaders like Mayor Turner and others who are here today to join in this effort. We cannot address this crime alone. Public, private, 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 public, public, I like to call it pea soup, all partnerships like the one we have with the Houston Airport System are critical to effectively raising awareness. We believe that everyone has a role to play in this space, and being educated and helping raise awareness within our communities can help make a big difference. It could actually save a life. So again, I thank you for inviting me to join you here today, and I look forward to joining together to combat this heinous crime of human trafficking. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinda. May I take a moment to please recognize former Congressman Pete Olson. He had been a great advocate, working very closely with us during his tenureship. Congressman, thank you. We also have representatives from Congressman Al Green's office and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson-Lee's office, and we appreciate their support. Talking about law enforcement, Harris County is the third largest county in the country. They have a big job when it comes to anti-human trafficking initiatives. Here to talk about that is our own Harris County Sheriff, Ed Gonzalez.
Thank you, Sava. Good morning, and thank you for joining us to rally even more support for our important fight against human trafficking. I join police leaders here today and various police agencies that are represented here today to express our gratitude to the Houston Airport System for your support of our efforts to protect victims and link them to the resources they need through groups like Red M, Bridge Over Troubled Water, Unbound Now, Jacqueline Aluato, and No Trafficking Zones, and we're very proud to be participating in that, and many, many more. The Harris County Sheriff's Office is a proud member of the Regional Human Trafficking Rescue Alliance. Using a team approach, Alliance members are combining resources to combat the human trafficking epidemic that plagues communities across our nation. The Alliance includes nearly a dozen federal, state, and local law enforcement agencies working strategically with key social service organizations. The Harris County Sheriff's Office Human Trafficking Unit leads our efforts to protect those who are vulnerable to trafficking. Many of them are gathered with us this morning, and I want to thank them for their important service. Sarge, if you and the team could please stand up. Let's give them a round of applause. They're the ones that do the work every day for us. They do phenomenal work. Thank you for being in the front lines. Very proud of our team. So far this year, our Human Trafficking Unit has conducted 51 operations, closed 186 cases, and made over 144 arrests. Our goal is to identify human trafficking victims, get them away from their abusers, and connect them with the services they need to regain control of their lives. We recognize that those who are selling their bodies for sex are almost always victims, not criminals. Our goal is to rescue and support them. Some of these victims suffer from substance abuse addictions. Many have lives of constant physical and psychological abuse. They need help, and we are committed to giving it to them. Those abusers we arrest on charges of promotion of prostitution and human trafficking are criminals who are preying on vulnerable people. We will do everything in our power to ensure they go to prison where they belong. And we work very closely, and we're a partner in Project 180 from the Harris County District Attorney's Office and DA Ogg, and I know Ruben Perez is here representing. I want to thank all of our partners who are with us today. Putting an end to human trafficking is everyone's responsibility, and we are grateful for all that you do. Most importantly, I want to extend my thanks and admiration to the human trafficking survivors who bravely share their personal stories so that others might be spared. You are our heroes. So, thank you very much, and go Astros.
Great segue, Sheriff. Thank you. The brighter our spotlight on crime, the less opportunity for criminals to hide in the shadows. Let's make this now very personal. Rhonda Kirkendall is a survivor of human trafficking, a very, very brave lady. Rhonda's made it her life mission to share her story, and we applaud her for it.
Thank you, Houston Airports, Red M, and all of the stakeholders that are here today. I'm a survivor of sex trafficking. At the age of 10, I met my trafficker at my dad's apartment in Pasadena, Texas. At the time, I was living in Fort Bend County with my mother, so my trafficker would come from Pasadena to Fort Bend County, pick me up, and take me into Houston. That happened several different times before I started to be flown. I would be flown out of Houston Intercontinental Airport. I would be flown out on a Friday, returned on a Sunday, and sitting in my seat at Taylor Ray Elementary Monday morning. So for many years, I've kept my airplane ticket of when I was flown on Houston Intercontinental Airport. And I also kept this heart, and I didn't really understand what it was. Because I was a minor on an airplane, I had to keep this heart with me. My trafficker completed this heart. He filled out all the information with his name and his address. It would take many years later that I went to the Pasadena Police Department. I met with a Detective Ragsdale. I don't know why I remember his name, but I remember Detective Ragsdale. That day, he told me that my trafficker had been convicted 4 times, 3 different states, all sex crimes against children. Those charges were compelling prostitution, sexual performance by a child, and aggravated sexual assault. Today, my trafficker is living free in El Paso. He will have to register as a sex offender for the remainder of his life, but that registration did not prevent his abuse before. So as an adult, looking back on my victimization, I try to imagine that 10-year-old child walking through an airport. She had just been repeatedly raped and photographed. And I can tell you one thing. Nobody in the airport saw me. Nobody in the school saw me. Nobody in the child welfare system saw me. But it's events like today that are going to make the difference, to teach our community about what they should look for. Because it is only through awareness, identification, and restorative services for victims that we can begin to heal from sex trafficking trauma. And I would like to thank each and every one of you for being here today. Thank you.
In conclusion of our program today, all the funds that are raised during this program will be going to 3 advocacy groups to help survivors, to help this fight. I encourage everyone, like Mayor Turner said, don't stand in the sidelines anymore, please. Join the fight. Members of media, I invite you to look at the little walk-through museum that we have. Mr. David Reed with Red M will be leading that. Our next program will be the panel discussion. Give us a few minutes and we will commence with that. Thank you so much for everyone for attending.